Okay, chickens. Just let me. Okay. Oh, put a foot in the bag. Welcome to this very serious, serious episode, live video of an astrology reading. This is the one and only, the goddess, Megan Hanna. I don't think y'all are about to know, get what you're about to be blessed. You are being blessed. So welcome to the blessing. I'm going to be blessed. Tomorrow's my birthday. So selfishly, we're doing this about me. But starting next week, next Monday, March 9th through March 30th, we're doing an Astrology 101 course, which I've had a lot of people ask me, how do I get to know myself? Yoga is a path of self-inquiry and self-study, but sometimes I don't even know who I am or how to even begin that process. And I remember Purvi actually 2 years ago started getting really into astrology, and I was like, oh girl, you are so full of shit. But she's like one of my best friends. So I was like, I'll listen because I trust you. And just like what she was receiving and what she was learning about herself started to really open up curiosity within the skeptic. And I'm like, well, I think it might be bullshit, but I'll listen to you because you're a genius. I'll entertain it. So if you're like thinking, I don't get astrology or I think it's bullshit, I definitely came from that place. Then she and I went to Wanderlust, a woman I never met who is a physicist or something, like some incredible scientific, background, did a reading for me and was mind blowing. And that was the first time that I was like, okay, there's definitely merit here. And then when I met you and I've just seen you unlock these keys in people, these profound openings in people through this practice, it has really led me to understand the depth of it. And I think modern culture's kind of fucked it a little bit, just like tarot, I think has been turned into this kitschy, party trick. Mm-hmm. But there's a deep science to a lot of these ancient arts that because they become so accessible, they also get watered down. Yes. So I'd love for you to share how much study you've done in this and who you've studied with before we start, because I think, yes, you can read a horoscope and tell your friend I wouldn't schedule anything on March 17th because Teen Magazine told me so. Beware. It told me, and it's got to be real. So also disclaimer and shameless plug for Cluster Truck. We're getting lunch right now and it's being delivered. So I'm going to pop out in a second and she's going to talk about herself and then I'll bring back in my snacks and we'll keep going. So yeah, will you talk about your education in this, how you got to astrology, all that?
Absolutely. My journey with astrology really began through my journey of yoga. I think we've all, over the course of our lives, somewhere found out that our birthday correlates to our sun sign, and I identified as a Scorpio early on in my life, but I didn't really know what that meant. I knew there was this black insect.
Yeah, Scorpion.
Sometimes they're black. Or no? Okay, stopping with the animal. But I identified with this dark creature, and I saw myself in that a little bit, but I didn't really know much more about it. So I kind of just left it there for a little bit. I'd read horoscopes, nothing really resonated with me. And so then I began my yoga journey 2010, and a mentor along my way said that yoga is the greatest gateway drug that you can ever experience. And I found that to be wildly true for me. I went on a journey of self-exploration and started with Reiki, found that to be really interesting. And then that led me to numerology, which led me to tarot, which ultimately led me to astrology. And all of these ancient practices are tools to help you get to see yourself through different lenses. And it's not just one lens here, one lens, but when you combine all of them, then I think it brings you to a realization and understanding of why you are the way you are, and just having more of an appreciation and understanding for yourself. My astrology mentor, teacher, Queen Eliza Kelly, says that yoga, astrology is a practice in empathy. And once we learn why we are the way we are, then we can have a greater understanding for ourselves, and then we can start to apply that to those around us, the people that we love the most. I first studied astrology at the Pyramid of Enlightenment in Indianapolis, and then found Aliza online on Instagram and had a reading with her and fell in love. And I felt seen for the first time. My reading spoke to something that I had been so hard on myself for my entire life, and she finally put words to it and gave me a narrative and a platform to launch from. And now I'm like actively working on that about myself, because I was always beating myself up over it. And now I don't have to. And then I studied with Deborah Silverman, an astrologer who is very connected to Yoga Girl and Trevor Hall and Sting, and she's very much like people call her like the astrologer of America. But yeah, so.
Well, Tavi Joyce, who is, the father of Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, his name, Joyce, anytime you hear Joyce, means astrologer. So if you're watching this and you are a yogi, which I would presume is the main audience for hitting, it goes deep into yoga culture to have astrology as a backbone. Ashtanga in particular takes the new moon off, I think, or they have moon days. Can't remember if it's new or full, but they honor the cycles of the moon with their practice. As a woman, as a female identifying person, I am really looking into the cycles of my hormones and how instead of working against them, I work with them. So I think all of this is a study, to your point, of empathy, and that when we can learn what makes us tick, we actually will be better in the world. If we understand ourselves better, we will be more functional in the world, and then we will be able to give others permission to play out their dharma and their swadharma, their particular way of being in the world, because that's the way they were made. And so I'm so excited to do this, and thank you for doing this. And
happy to read for you and just remind you of how amazing you are and see you for your full self.
See, I don't like being seen, so.
You know what? It's funny that you say that, because there's a reason for that. And shocking, it's in your chart.
So while Joe, our cluster truck driver, is here in 2 minutes, maybe you could share a little bit about what you're going to go through. Like, can you give the vocab terms while we give Joe his 2 minutes to get here, and then we'll snack and chat.
Super pumped. Joe's coming. And
love Joe.
Yes, Joe Bear. But in your chart, or just in a natal chart in general.
Yeah, give it a lay of the land. Maybe.
Yeah. So everyone has a unique natal chart, and a natal chart is a snapshot of the sky at the moment of your birth. Yeah. So your natal chart is specific and unique to you, and it never changes. Once at the moment of your birth, that's why birth time is so important. That is what sets your entire chart. So your birth time gives us your rising sign, your ascendant, and that is the opening to your chart. And that's where we can extract all of the information. So the basics of astrology, first being the foundation of the elements. All of the different cultures, they worshipped the earth and the water and the air and the fire, and they learned that there was so much validity and so much to extract from the earth and to appreciate it and all of the elements. So it's learning to work with the elements, and through the elements, then we get the zodiac signs, the 12 signs. And working from there, after that, we learn about the planets in the solar system. And in astrology, in modern astrology, Western, we work with 10 different planets. The sun is considered to be a planet as well. And after we work with all of the planets, there's a few nodes that we work with. The nodes of the moon, which are called the north node and the south node. And those speak to our purpose, our direction. Some call it the shortcut to enlightenment. Some call it our destiny. Depends on what you buy into. And then there are some points that we work with in our chart as well. And after we work with the planets, we work with the housing system. And in order to have the full natal chart, we need the birth time, because that is what sets our natal chart in motion. And that's where we can extract information, figuring out what planets are in what houses. And that's how we really begin to tell the story of your natal chart and how everything works together.
And hold on, really loud sound. Snaps. In Astrology 101, you'll be diving deeper into like these actual, like what is everything, right? So that's going to be a big basis of this. So yeah, because there's so much you could go into. We did a course last year that was amazing, and with Megan, and it just skimmed the surface. So there's so much you even know about the houses and the nodes and all the things.
All the steps. Yeah. So
Okay.
breaking that down, and I have the honor of getting to read Shannon's chart for her today.
Are you gonna be offended if I sloppily eat?
I love food more than anything. Not more than astrology. Maybe it's time. So please, munch away. Munch away, my dear friend. Our lovely Pisces queen. So just by the first things that stood out to me in your natal chart, well, I'll preface it with this. Astrology, as my teachers have taught me, astrology works best when it's a conversation. It's not fortune telling. It's not here to, the way that I read it, certain things, but it's not fatalistic. It's really a tool for empowerment and to, in my opinion, to remind you of your strengths that you possess, how awesome you are, and the things to kind of be aware and to look at. And it helps you look at yourself through different angles. And so astrology works best, in my opinion, when it's a conversation. I can speak to things in your chart, and then maybe then you give the narrative. So I'll kind of lay a platform, and then you can launch from there. So the first things that I noticed when I looked at your chart is that you have a heavy concentration in your first house and your 12th house. First house loosely correlates to that of the sign of Aries, and it also loosely correlates to the sign of Pisces. So not only do you have a first house stellium and a 12th house stellium, but you also have a stellium in the signs Aries and Pisces.
So what does that mean?
So Aries is the first sign of the zodiac.
Pisces is the last, right?
Exactly.
Lead.
So you are the beginning and the end, all encompassing, my love. Yikes! So Aries, it feels appropriate to start talking about Aries because Aries is the first sign of the zodiac, and it starts everything off. It doesn't really know why it's doing what it's doing, but it's doing it. It's gonna lead, it's gonna rally the troops. It's like, all right, everyone, let's go. It's the pioneer, it's the warrior. They're leading the troops out to war, and it's the fire sign. It's the first fire sign of the zodiac. So fire is passion, it's excitement, it's just enthusiasm, it's courageous. So an Aries gets someone really excited for what they're about to do, and it ignites passion in those around them. So Aries can be kind of a daredevil. They can be very direct, domineering. They're very much so a leader in their community. They're very straightforward. They're enthusiastic and building people up and like, let's go. Aries doesn't always think about what they're doing before it, but they have this inner drive and this pull and this passion. They feel very fueled, and they're like, let's get everyone to do it together. A life lesson for Aries is to be okay with being independent. And Aries is very much about like me, and its counterpart Libra is the opposite, is about we. But Aries is meant to propel others forward and push them, and just be a leader and lead everyone in the direction that they're going, and inspire others to follow them. And also to fight for what they believe in, to stand up for what they think is right. Aries is a huge supporter of the underdog, and they want to collectively they want to build people up and like, okay, let's do this together. And if they see injustice, they're going to be someone to stand up for those who maybe don't have a voice. Some famous Aries, and I was going through, I think it was, oh my gosh, Al Gore. And yeah, talking about climate change before anyone else, and being the leader, being the spokesperson, and is like, why aren't we talking about this? We have to do something about this, and just igniting change and getting people passionate about what he's passionate about, because this matters. And even talking about it when no one else is saying anything, and standing up for what he believes is right. Gloria Steinem, Maya Angelou, Lady Gaga, people who are fiercely independent, fierce leaders in community. Yeah, Aries is the first one to get up in the morning. They're like, let's go, we gotta go. I think get up early and do your thing.
I love a good 5 a.m.
Yes.
Love a good 5 a.m. moment.
Yeah, it's funny because on the counterpart that, I know you love your sleep. Pisces rules, to counter that rules the dream world, and all that is hidden, and all that is like the world behind the eyes. Aries is very front, out, and center. And so there's this push and pull in your chart between being front and center, being this leader, but then the Pisces is like everything below the surface. So it's a mixed bag. So it's this really interesting pull between being this leader, but then standing back, and it's very interesting.
That's every day.
Yeah,
for me.
So your sun is in the 12th house, which it rules all things Pisces, and your sun is Pisces. Your sun sign is Pisces, and Pisces is the mystic, is the dreamer, is the musician, the poet. They are the last water sign of all of the 3 water signs, and the last sign of the zodiac. So within Pisces is all of the signs collectively in the zodiac. So it's the ultimate empath, the ultimate healer. And Pisces is like the raging waters of the ocean. There is no containing Pisces. It's like you just talking about, people, we want to put people in a box. Pisces says that there is no box.
I don't like boxes.
So, yeah. Pisces, and kind of talking also about the 12th house rules, the dream state, anything that is hidden. So the first house is very visible. Aries is out front and center. You don't miss an Aries. You know when there's an Aries in the room. They're like, hi, I'm here. Yeah. I'm a triple Aries. I'm here. Just wanted to let you know. I have a friend like that.
My friend Amanda, she just nailed it with your elements.
I love that. Thanks, Amanda.
I love you, Amanda. I love you. I miss you. Come back.
So it's funny because Aries is front and center, and you know when there's an Aries, and Pisces is, let me just talk about how are you feeling? How are you doing? What's going on with you? And it talks, Pisces wants to talk about anything that is hidden below the surface. Like, let's dig out some of the stuff from the deepest depths. Let's trauma, talking about spirituality, talking about the things that maybe aren't as comfortable to talk about, immense healing, very sensitive. They're natural psychics, they're the mystics, wanting to just uncover the things that normal people are don't dare to go there because it's so uncomfortable. The 12th house rules things that are hidden, like I said before, but also addictions, jails, asylums, institutional places. It's dark. It's heavy, and having your son there, kind of what you've spoken to before. So you are this natural born leader, and you have other parts in your chart that we'll talk about later, where you have this natural like authority about you, but in a way that is, people view you as a leader, and it's not overbearing, and people are very open to receive your leadership. But at the same time, your son being in the 12th house, it's not always comfortable to be seen. And your son is your ego, your sense of self. And so it's a little bit maybe hiding more behind the scenes and putting yourself out there to an extent, but then pulling back. Aries is the ram. The glyph is, it mimics a symbol of the ram's horns. And what a ram does is they put their head down and they propel forward and they push and they keep going and they don't stop. And there's this perseverance and endurance about them. They're also natural born athletes, very physical by nature, and they get their energy out by physically exerting themselves, and it feels good to have a challenge and to work. Did you grow up playing sports?
No, I was a dancer. I mean, I played sports. I ran track. I did basketball, but I was just like clumsy as hell. I didn't like the I didn't like the competition, which is deeply ironic because dance is highly competitive. And so I also was really, really talented, and I always feel like a shit saying that, but I was really good.
Yeah.
And I struggled being seen. Like, I knew I should, when I was in that, I knew I was supposed to be, and I knew, like, my parents ended up kind of, they didn't force me, but they basically said, like, there's no alternative, you have to give this one more shot. So I went to conservatory, and I remember the deep struggle of, like, I don't want to be seen, but I have to be seen. And so all of that is very congruent. And addiction, like, I had an eating disorder, and I get addicted to habits, or, like, luckily I've never had a substance addiction, but I think if I hadn't seen that played out for other people in my life, I would have.
Yeah.
Hands down.
Absolutely. With a high concentration of not only Pisces in your chart, but your 12th house, like, that's great that you're aware of that, because I would say you would lean maybe more in a tendency of having maybe addictive behaviors, and addictive behaviors don't have to be bad, you know. It could be like, and it depends on what we feel drawn to, you know, and just channeling that in a more productive direction. Like, for Pisces, channeling, learning how to sit in stillness in the midst of all of the ocean moving around you. The Pisces, we talked about Aries being the ram and propelling forward, but Pisces are two fish, and they're moving in opposite directions and they never meet. So it's the waves of the ocean and how they, being in this flow state, but Pisces is a little bit about opposites too. It's like, I'm into spirituality, but woo-woo stuff is annoying. Yeah. I thought that one. I was like, I think I know. That really resonates.
That's so fucking true. Yeah, I'm so skeptical until I'm not.
Yeah, and there's like interest, but then no. I'm a loner, but I want a relationship. You know, and I love being in a relationship.
Yes.
I love being around people, but when are you leaving? You know, it's like,
oh my god, it feels so good to. It feels so good to be seen.
I'm so glad. It's like there's a reason, you know, and it's like, and instead of being like, oh, why am I this way? Like, why? It's like, own it.
Yeah.
And
I have 10 minutes for me to like you and you get the fuck out. Not you, but that's sometimes I feel that. And I also, people have commented on how much that bothers them about me. And, you know, I've had to usually just like, this is it. Like, this is me. You take me or you leave me. And I love that.
Yeah.
I feel seen that is not me just being a lunatic.
No, and that's just you being in your Pisces, and that's beautiful. You know, and learning how to like work with that energy. So yeah, it's funny that so Aries is very physical by nature. I think it's one of the most physical signs. I think Aries and Sagittarius, I would say, and then but Pisces is everything that is fluid, being not ultimate, but the most evolved water sign, and not better or worse. It's the last one. It's the most evolved. But Pisces also rules dance. And I saw someone post the other, music, musicians, voice. I heard you a time or two, and you have a lovely voice, my friend.
Thank you.
And I saw someone post the other day that she was like, there's really nothing more Piscean than like modern dance. Just like
Martha Gramming.
Sorry. Yeah, just like very fluid and very artsy, and you're like, kind of what's going on? I'm not sure, but I can't stop watching. But it makes me feel all the feels and makes me a little uncomfortable. But yeah.
Well, the Aries too. I mean, I picked up CrossFit when I was 22. Tomorrow I'll be 33. So yay. So that's 11 years of a highly athletic. In my practice, my yoga practice is highly athletic. Yeah. But then like my personality is deeply spiritual. And so, yeah, it resonates because also my class that I teach and that I choose to practice is like Noah Maze. I mean, he's so fucking physical, but then we'll like chant at the end, you know? So Anusara in general is like that blend of the two things you're talking about. Which is me. Yeah,
exactly. It's like a perfect blend of you. Like you have such a heavy concentration in both, not only a first house stellium, but an Aries stellium, not only a 12th house stellium, but a Pisces stellium. And I probably should mention what a stellium is.
Yes.
It's get those fries, girl. It is a concentrated area when you have, a stellium is when you have 3 or more planets in the same sign, or 3 or more signs in planets in a house. So you can have a house stellium or a sign stellium. And it's not uncommon to have stelliums in charts. Many people do have them, but it just leads you to, it's the first thing I noticed about your chart, the balance between such strong Aries female leadership qualities, and then Pisces, very empathetic, very understanding. And something that's very unique to your chart is your, so we should talk about the 3 main signs in the chart is your sun sign being in Pisces, and your rising sign, which is Aries, and your moon, which is Aries as well. And your rising sign and your moon are the exact same. So they are conjunct exactly by the same degree, which means I would say that you maybe identify a little bit more with your emotions than your ego. So your ego is a little bit more hidden, like kind of how you don't like to be front and center, and wanting to be a little bit more reserved about certain things, but you wear your heart on your sleeve, basically. And that makes you even more relatable. Like people, when you talk, people believe you, and people feel a part of themselves and in them when you speak, and it makes you extremely relatable. People just really connect with you, and that is something I've only seen that in one other chart, and it's not even that sign. It's when a planet is exactly conjunct
at the same degree.
Yes, this is a 1, just to give you the amount, it's a 1 in 360 chance.
Oh, okay.
So it's a thing. Like wow. This is a very specific signature in your chart. And so that's very unique and specific to you. Not other people have that, but it's rare. So,
like rare bird.
What kind of bird are you?
I think I'd definitely be like a cockatiel.
I love that.
Yeah.
I feel like I'd be a toucan.
Oh,
I don't know why, but just,
you would be a toucan.
Yeah. So yeah, that was one of my favorite things.
That's fascinating
about your chart. So just speaking a little bit more to your rising sign in Aries, there's so much I want to talk about, so I feel like I'm all over the place, but just your rising sign being in Aries, your rising sign speaks to, some people say it's how people see you.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of learned this from my teacher, just being a little bit skeptical about that, because not everyone can perceive you the exact same way.
Right.
I mean, it's kind of like the saying, it only takes 5 seconds to make a first impression.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, well, how can every single person you meet within the first 5 seconds come up with the same conclusion?
Right.
It's a little bit like,
Well, because you're perceiving people through your
own unique experience.
I have always found that strange, because it's like how I see you is very different than how other people,
yes.
People will be like, oh, that's so and so. I'm like, that's not my experience of them.
Right.
So yeah, I've always found that interesting, because you can't control each individual's perception. Okay,
absolutely. Yeah. So it's a little, it's almost like a little limiting.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like wrong, but it's just, I think there's a little bit more to it. And so you being an Aries rising would speak to, that's a natural placement for someone being more athletic, but that's like how you see the world. And you see the world as a place to move into and pioneer and pave your own path and really create something new in this world and lead people to pioneer, to initiate, and help create people to be enthusiastic about something that they care for. So, and then your moon in Aries, an Aries moon, I actually share the same placement as you.
I know.
So we both have.
So on co-star.
Yes. Yes. Very action oriented. So our emotions, our moon is our emotions. I should probably talk about that. Our sun is our sense of self. It's how we identify. It is our ego. It's our vitality, kind of like who we are at our core. And that's kind of who we are during the day. And then our moon is who we are when we're by ourselves. It's more intimate. It's our emotions. It's what makes us feel safe, how we feel nurtured, and how we want to be cared for.
Mm-hmm.
So getting all up in our feels. And an Aries moon is very passionate, very creative, but it's very fiery. So we can be very fiery with our emotions. So Aries moons like action. They like, even if challenges are hard, it's like it helps us to work through things and activate. It's like good for us to take on challenges, because when we overcome something, it's like the sense of accomplishment and we feel really good about ourselves. Doing that, Aries moons need freedom. They need independence. So we don't want to feel stifled. And if we feel like we are stuck, it's very, we feel very limited. Mm-hmm. So wanting to, find relationships where we feel, where we feel free and we can just be ourselves. That's a big thing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And also the moon can also relate to the mother. And in your chart also, you have very strong signatures for having a really big family. Like your family is very important to you. Your moon directly connects to your mother and how you feel about her. And your sun is directly aspected to Saturn, which is the father figure in the zodiac. And it just, from also looking at your chart initially, it shows that your family is extremely important to you and they imprinted on you, like majorly. Maybe the way that your mom feels, the way that you feel about your mom it can look a few different ways, like really looking up to her as a leader. It can be a little bit maybe how you feel about her emotions, getting a little bit fiery. Can be someone like looking up to her as a pioneer, like a leader in the family. And yeah, it's interesting. How do you relate to your mom? Like, with her emotions, do you feel like you kind of admired like how she, maybe if you could speak to that.
Yeah. So I love my mother. My mom and I feel like a desperate need always to call her and to like check in on her emotions. I mean, I probably call my mom every day and then get pissed if she doesn't call me.
So Aries moons also want to feel like they are kind of like the apple of their mom's eye.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I mean, I am her favorite child. I mean, you know, she hasn't said that. Like, you know, and like my brothers are watching. Like, don't get upset. It's
very important to feel also like you're number one.
Yeah, like I feel really connected to my mom, and I want her attention. You know, and my dad and my mom had some difficulty in marriage. Welcome to marriage. When I was a teenager.
Was that around like any time between like 14-ish?
Yep, right at like 13, 14. Yeah, and my mom, the way she handled that is something that's deeply imprinted in my brain. Is like as I look up to how she managed that, and like that deeply imprinted on me, and how she stood up for herself, and how she advocated for us and herself, and so I have a really good relationship with my mother, and like that is probably my most formative memory of her. Yeah, and the thing I think about the most.
Like how she stood up, how she spoke her truth, how she, like, it takes a lot of courage to do that. And so maybe seeing that in her ignited something deeper within you, and like you seeing like it's okay to step into that as well.
Yeah.
Interesting. Cool. So just having your moon in your first house and having it very, speaking to the point of you wanting to reach out to your mom all the time and feeling very connected with her. That's very much, anything in your first house is very palpable. It's very real. It's very, it's also very obvious for other people to see, like where just having your moon in your first house directly conjunct your ascendant is like, your emotions, like your heart on your sleeve, but it's very easy to identify with your emotions because you always, like, people always know how you feel. It's not like hiding your emotions. It's like, it's very obvious, like if you're happy, you're happy. And if you're sad, you're sad. Like it's very, it's a very real experience for everyone involved, like, you know, in a good way. So,
which I've always struggled with the question, how are you? And then like a vague response. Like I don't do well with like, if you're going to ask, I'm going to tell you.
Yes.
And then I find like that to be combative sometimes because like that isn't everybody's nature. And that is very, almost like assaulting for me to be like, fucking horrible today, you know, or like whatever is right there. I have no filter but to share that. And I have found that other people struggle with that, but I don't. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
So then I get in this conflict with people. Just why can't you like not always be in your feels, or why can't you not affect other people's experience because of that?
There's something else in your chart actually pertaining to that. So we've talked about the sun. We've talked about the moon, we've talked about the rising sign, and then the next planet that we work with is Mercury. And Mercury is kind of a buzzword, especially when you add retrograde to the end of it. Mercury is the planet that deals with communication. It deals with how we communicate to the world around us, and how speaks to how we think, our thoughts, and how we express ourselves. So your Mercury is in Pisces, and it's in the 12th house. And you were also born during a Mercury retrograde. So communication can feel a little bit maybe in flux.
Kirby, the person who got me into astrology, she's coming in for a oh my God, yes. Amanda, we talk about teenage masturbation while resting between. Yeah, I have no problem talking about masturbation with anyone because I think we should talk because people masturbate.
Oh my God, love it. Yeah, it's talking about the things that, perfect, thank you, Amanda.
Or miscarriage, like Nobody wants to talk about that. And I'm like, well, I've had 2 of them. And let's talk about it.
Talking about the things that you're going to the subjects and talking about the things that are hidden that most people don't want to speak to. And you will openly talk about it, and how that will be received is unique to that individual. But when you were born during a Mercury retrograde, which I was as well, and it manifests for different people, it can maybe feel, maybe the individual who was born during a Mercury retrograde doesn't feel heard, doesn't feel like people understand them when they talk, maybe having a hard time getting their point across, or just feeling, I think maybe a little bit more into your 12th house with Pisces and Mercury. Maybe just people aren't always ready to hear certain things. And so there's just some resistance with that, and a lot of feedback, maybe, for things that are said. So, so that's something just interesting. Also so we're in a Mercury retrograde right now in Pisces. So has there been any, I wouldn't say it's a time of maybe a little bit of tension, of maybe more misunderstandings, maybe delays, things just going a little bit haywire?
Yeah, so many. One, my husband got really sick and, had a concussion. If he's watching this, like, I don't have a concussion. He had a fucking concussion. And that was, when did Mercury go into retrograde? February?
Well, so the thing is with Mercury retrograde is there's a period of typically 3 weeks where it is actually retrograding, but there's a shadow period on both sides. And for people that were born during a Mercury retrograde, it's actually kind of like you live your whole life in a Mercury retrograde.
Oh.
So maybe there are more misunderstandings, or it's also sometimes more of something that you will notice. Like it's something that you will be aware of. Like I always feel like I'm not explaining things a certain way, or maybe I stutter, or people don't understand me, or any of those things. It's something that you will pick up on more than others. But so during Mercury retrograde, I mean, everyone feels that on a collective level. Not to say everyone, but most people feel that. But during the shadow period, so the 2 weeks before and the 2 weeks after, are typically when people born during a Mercury retrograde will feel it
the most.
Yeah. And that's, unique too. It depends on also where it's happening in your chart, but yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, when Peter hurt himself, I then, over the last 2 weeks, and this isn't not known, he and I felt like there's this huge distance between us, or we just haven't been communicating, and we're like just missing each other. And like I'm starting to feel that resolve itself, but there were 2 weeks where I was like, I don't feel like I've had a discussion with my husband, and like I miss you, obviously.
Yeah.
And I've had a couple of like, I've had a couple of relationships that are normally more in alignment, where our conversation is just not flowing, or there's immediate anger or resentment because a point was unclear, or intent was unclear. Like my intent for everything is everybody wins, like trying to get everybody to get their desired end result and to win. And a lot of these conversations, that person has forgotten or not seen that that's my intent. And so there's been like a miscommunication and an anger. But I also find that, not feeling seen or heard, I've always thought that was just universal. Like, I constantly feel like I'm not a good communicator. And so like I diligently work at, like my teaching in particular, work at my language all the time and structuring things so that I am communicating to the highest efficiency possible. That's why I study with Noah, because he's such an effective communicator.
Yes.
Because I constantly feel like I didn't get the point across.
Yes.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
And with my kids, I live in an existential dread of like, you will never get, I always feel like I'm not doing enough. and I'm not being heard as a mother because, you know, I'm failing in so many other ways. And so then I'm like constantly telling my children I love them and how great they are, because I have this deep fear that like they're not going to get it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, speaking to that specifically about parenting, you having your moon in your first house, the moon relates to the mother, and you having that in your first house, anything in the first house is very real, very palpable, like I said before, but like that is like a beautiful placement for a mother. Like you have the parenting skills. It's like literally like you have the skills to be a natural mother, and you have all of the tools. It's like a beautiful, great placement to have that, and you're able to be supportive and hear your children's emotions. I think I've heard you saying that
Gosh.
you're like, I will always pay for my kids' therapy.
Yeah.
You know,
I won't fuck them up.
but
So.
but just like, you know, we all fuck someone. You know, it's like that's just how it is. Like parents, you know, even with the best intent, there's some wounds, there's some scars, but you just being so openly aware of your emotions and other people's emotions. There's the Pisces coming in, like the collective, like how are you feeling? How are we feeling? You know, and you just being so aware of others' emotions is just speaks volumes to you, and it's beautiful. That I remember you saying that when I was going over your chart. It was like, yeah, you have all the tools, and you are that nurturing, that beautiful nurturing mother. So
thank you.
Yeah. So welcome. Oh my gosh. Yeah, literally. Yeah. And also it speaks to having really strong female impactful relationships in your life. Very important. And maybe with those who are male relationships, or people who identify as male relationships, it can kind of swing both ways. Maybe you lean towards, because I mean, you have a beautiful balance of Aries is more external, and trying to take like the binary terms out of it. Aries is more external, and Pisces is more internal, which can sometimes correlate to masculine and feminine, but does not have to. Maybe in your male relationships, you would either seek someone who's very more nurturing and more loving, or the opposite, like very masculine, very direct, very this. So kind of a balancing between those.
That is my husband. Yeah. He is that. He is like, yes, and.
Yeah.
He's so masculine and such a hottie. But then he's also, I remember when I met him thinking like he's the nicest person I've ever met, and reflecting on just like how sensitive he can be and how open he can be. I mean, the fact that, you know, we can have really open conversations about our children's like sexuality and things that are, you know, hard to talk about. And he's so open to that. Yeah, he is those things. And then, you know, I have a lot of male friends who identify as male, but would tell you that they themselves wouldn't fit on the binary, you know, and I've always been more in relationship with those who are in deep connection with their moon or their feminine elements, I guess, even if they identify as male. My dad is a perfect example. My dad is the person who introduced me to Diana Ross, to Debbie Gibson. Every time I ever tell someone about my dad, they're like, is he gay? No. I mean, I don't know. No, I don't think so. He's really into my mom, so no. Yeah, but my dad is like he has such a femininity to him that is like so, it's just so beautiful. And my brothers do too. Again, I hope they're not watching this because they'll fucking kill me. But my brothers are like really sensitive men, and they are just, they're sensitive, they're kind, and I have like attracted that from men my whole life. It just brings me so much joy thinking about that.
Yes. Yeah, that's so beautiful. I love that. Something also with wearing our hearts on our sleeves and being very emotionally driven people. And I think even when we were texting yesterday, you're like, my instinct, my feeling. And that is something with heavy Pisces energy in your chart. and your moon exactly on your rising sign, them being the exact same, when you have those gut feelings, you cannot steer from them. Like, that is a truth deeper than anything. Any other truth for you is like, you know, in your body, like, don't abandon those because you know, and don't second guess those gut things, because Pisces is the ultimate feeler, very empathic, so you're very sensitive to energies around you, maybe sensitive to other people's energies. And when you walk in a room, you can just feel, you're like, is someone having a bad day? Because I feel something and I'm not sure what's going on. Or you can kind of tell in conversations how people are relating to you, how they're responding. It's just very important for that. And like also setting boundaries. Pisces is the ultimate, it's the ultimate water source, the ocean. And I mean, you can't really contain that. It's hard to, it's this force, but creating boundaries, that's one of the biggest things for people with heavy Pisces energy, is being protective of your own energy and conserving that. And people do relate to you so much because the stories that you share about your struggles and some of your darkness is so beautiful. And then people, it's like a moth to the flame, kind of like we were talking. And it's just being protective of that energy, because people see that light and they see that your light is also comes from like a deep, dark place inside of you that is beautiful. And you have really connected to, yourself, and you are always on this constant journey of uncovering something deep within you and on this spiritual journey. And just dedicated to getting to know yourself. And people see that, and that's very appealing and very attracting. And they, sometimes maybe want more of you than you're able to give. And so setting those boundaries and just being protective of your energy, so that, because you are here to, there's a point in the chart, the North Node and the South Node, and your North Node is in Aries. You are here to be a leader, and it's your North Node is in the 12th house, and you are here to be like a spiritual leader, to help people, to encourage people to dig deep within themselves and to find that which makes them tick, that which is a wound for them, and just shed light on that and help usher people into this like healing transformation. And so that's literally in your chart. I mean, that's what you've done so beautifully for so many people here, and myself included, and just been like this, spiritual leader and this guide, and just helping us see ourselves. And you really see people, and I feel very seen when I'm around you, and you have this beautiful way of seeing people through in a way that they don't normally feel seen. And so you possess this immense, great strength, and people are very attracted to that. So it's important to set boundaries so that you can, do that, continue to do that, and don't get burnt out or, just give too much. So then, when we give so much, when we give from an empty cup, there's something left to give. So filling your cup and, that, but, just honoring yourself, because it's kind of a weight sometimes, you are this leader and you hold this platform and have this amazing studio for Indianapolis, and for even greater than that online. And it's a lot, and just making sure that you are doing the same for yourself and giving to yourself. And I mean, that's a big thing that is, kind of a buzz thing that people are talking about self-care, but just really giving to yourself and what feeds you and what fuels you. Because what fuels you and what inspires you, when you feel activated and connected to yourself and to that within you, that's even more what you can take to, like, you healing yourself also heals others. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
it does.
Powerful, Mama.
It's so cool. It's so cool to be seen. I mean, I just read The Body Keeps the Score, and we have 6 minutes left before this whole time is up.
Well, I got something to talk about.
Yeah, well, you talk about it. You do it.
Yeah. if there's anything you want to say.
Well, it just is talking about trauma, and there's trauma that is a very heightened experience. If you've had childhood trauma or PTSD or anything like that. This book is dealing specifically with like really trauma I have not experienced. But it's saying how we heal those traumas. I think we kind of live in a traumatized world. Is how we heal those traumas is through safety and security. And the first way to build safety and security is to find people who see you and to build community or be in community that sees you and holds you. And that hit me so hard when I read that, because it's like, that is something that's so important to me, is that people feel seen and heard. It's in our handbook. I mean, it's everywhere. So yeah, that is deeply resonates and is deeply important to me, that people feel seen and heard, and that I feel seen and heard, even though a lot of times I feel like I cannot get my point across. Even right now, I'm like, no one fucking gets me. Me, my fries. Okay.
I see you.
Thank you.
My favorite thing about your chart, it's almost like, it's just so wild. So there's a point in the top of your chart. It's the highest part of the chart, called the midheaven. And the midheaven point of the chart deals with things that are very Capricorn inspired. It's about building a legacy. What do you want to be remembered for? What is it's not just a job, but it's a career. And what are you building? Like building an empire. And so that point in your chart, right on top of that is the planet Neptune in Capricorn. And Neptune is the planet that is ruled by Pisces, and it's the dreamer, and it's the mystic, and it's all about what can we dream up that we want to be remembered for. And Capricorn is about business, is about structure, is the ultimate legacy. And it's like, it's you doing goal setting for people. Whatever you want to create, you can. And something that you will be remembered for, if you so choose to, is to help people create their own reality. And whatever they dream up, you can help them, usher them into leading them in the right direction. So writing down what they need to do, and you can help people dream up their reality, and then help them with the Capricorn. It's not just dreaming. Pisces, water, the complement to water is earth, and that the most evolved earth sign is Capricorn. So let's make your dreams a reality, and let's actually have a firm foundation. Let's build this structure so that anything is possible.
Oh, my whole pulse is like that is absolutely, and I'm terrified of that in a way, because I feel like that work is so ethereal at times,
Yeah.
And I think to myself, like, who the fuck am I to tell you, like, you can have whatever you want? Like, that comes from a privileged white place. And at the same time, I went to see Dr. Taranae Trent speak about, her coming from having 4 children by the age of 18, living in a small village in Africa in an abusive marriage, to coming to the United States, get her undergraduate, her graduate, her PhD, and like hearing that and knowing that like it is possible for all beings, so I'm constantly in this, like, I'm such a fake, like, who am I to counsel people or talk to people about this? But then I see someone like that, I'm like, but anybody could tap into that if they're willing.
Absolutely. You are here to help people make their dreams real. I mean, truly. So you doing goal setting that's like what you're here to do. And just you talking about how you and your dad have done this, and reading
Brian Tracy.
Yes, reading the books, and you leading. I mean, I went to your goal setting workshop on New Year's Day, and I filled up a whole notebook on how to manifest, and just the whole process that you walked us through. It was so stunningly beautiful, and so wild how things have already come into fruition for me, from my experience. And I know, because the room was packed, most people, it wasn't their first time, that they feel the exact same way. And so, like, keep doing that, please, because that's what is here to do.
We have 20 whole seconds. With that, because Megan does not like speaking in public, so this is part of me forcing her into her manifestation. You have to come learn with her. Astrology 101 starts March 9th. I'm going to keep making her talk about me to me, but this is going to end because it only gives us an hour. But check it out. She is unbelievable. If you're not already like just shook, she's amazing. And I'll put the info in the comments. Is he going to cut us off? Oh, it was just a commercial break. It's going to keep going. Okay, great. So we're just going to keep talking. Commercial break over. If you're still here with us, Facebook is allowing us to be here, so thanks.
Dope. Oh my gosh.
Okay.
That was.
So I'm supposed to goal set.
Yes. Something that is also interesting. So you have this fire and this water in your chart, but the next planet after Mercury is Venus that we work with, and Venus, it's the planet of love and abundance, but it's also what we value. So, and your Venus is in Capricorn. So something that you value. So you have like this, this energetic, fiery energy, this leader, and then you have like this dreamy. So when you put those together, mixed with your earth energy, your Venus is in Capricorn. And it's like you value hard work. You value determination. You value creating a legacy for yourself. And so you have the stability to back it up. And it's interesting, it's at the 29th degree, which is a very significant degree in astrology. And it's like you've done this before. It's like your Jupiter is also in Pisces at 29 degrees, and there's just a lot of keys in your chart that speak to, did something significant around your business happen when you were 29?
29. Yes. Well, oh fuck, I'm not good with time. I look at my watch. That's not gonna help. 29 would have been when Magnolia, when I got pregnant. Yes, that's when we moved. That's when we started the process of moving from the garage, the yoga womb, as people call it, to here. Because we're going into our third, we've been in this building for 2 years, we're going into our third. And so when I was 29, we would have been building this out. And it was the shift of like
growth and
shit or get off the pot. Yeah, like that's probably when Purvi and I started our teacher training, maybe a year before. Yes, so that was all kind of the churning of that, which is wild.
Yeah, it just looks like to me it was a major time for expansion, and literally Venus being in Capricorn and Jupiter being in Pisces, so it's like business and dreaming. So like dreaming big in your business and expansion and growth.
Yes, that was when this came to fruition.
Yeah.
We got our own building, and I mean it was a huge, it's wild.
Yeah. And so it's when we have a planet in the 29th degree, it kind of speaks to, it's the last degree before we go to the next sign. So it's like, what are the lessons that we need to learn around Capricorn and the Capricorn value system? So about like business, is there anything like lingering so that we can kind of move on to the next? And same with the expansion. Jupiter is the largest planet that we work with, and it enlarges and amplifies anything it touches. And your Jupiter being in Pisces, it's like dreaming big, and like is there anything else that we need to learn so that we can then move on to the next? Like, what are the lessons that are here to learn? And that's not like a question that you answer easily. It's something like that you kind of ruminate over.
Would that have been something that like at that juncture
what kind of sparked?
Oh yeah, that's wild. Yes.
So kind of sparking like how big are we going to dream? Like, where does this stop? Like, where do we keep going? How do we move forward? And like, Jupiter is also abundance. It's excess, and excess can be, good or bad, but it's like, how can we continue to grow and evolve and keep dreaming? That's kind of weaving in the Pisces, but yeah, it's like limitless. And yeah, and the stability. So you have this dreamy, you have this leadership, but then it's also fundamentally, you have the structure to back it up, and you've created this empire. And I feel like you're working on creating and building, and not only having the studio here, but the online platform, and making it so that it's accessible to not just someone who lives here in Indianapolis or Indiana, but how can you also be reaching others? And also Jupiter and Pisces is like amplifying spirituality. And like, how can we, but also like root down in like, have like the foundation of like a firm foundation, and not just having it be all woo woo and spiritual, but having like the groundwork and the foundation, the lineage to back it up.
What's wild about that, and what you said earlier about femininity, or like being connected to people who have feminine qualities, is that since we made this transition, my obsession, like straight up obsession, has become about making yoga a career, making it a stable foundation. And I didn't have a lot of girlfriends growing up, and oddly it's shifted to this like obsession with giving women jobs and building sustainable jobs, sustainable and empowering jobs for women. And like, I think about that all day, every day. And it really did. I don't know that like at 29 I was, thinking exactly that, but I think
that's where it started.
Yes, that was where
like
the seeds were being planted. Yeah, now like I work in an all women's entrepreneur group, like a female empowered entrepreneur group with a badass woman leading it. And so that is really beautiful and cool.
We'll keep watering those seeds because truly it is kind of limitless of where it can go. So like with you steering the ship and you pioneering and leading the way, and you have the foundation to back it up, the sky is the limit. It's beyond the sky. I mean, it is limitless in your chart. So it's like wherever you choose to take it, it can go.
Whew. I hope so. I mean, what's interesting about this, and I don't know if astrology has an answer for it, but it's like that, the inner voice that then is like, is it, because like the goal setting, like I know I'm supposed to do that. Like speaking from intuition, I know I'm good at it. I know I see things, but then there's a voice inside that's like, how dare you? Who are you?
Yeah. Well, then the ego comes in, and I don't want to be seen, and why do you think that this is your platform to do it? And, it's like, it's uncomfortable. And of course, it's like the ego comes in and does that. But you are also another way to view the rising sign, which is the ascendant. Some people say it's how people perceive you, but also like how you see the world, but like what you should be moving towards. Like everything in your chart is indicating leadership. Everything. Whether you look to the Saturn is in Sagittarius for you, and that's spirituality. And then your North Node is in Aries, your rising sign is in Aries. You are a natural born leader and moving towards the more spiritual. I mean, like, and how can you be a pioneer and lead and help bring others with you? Because Aries, I mean, they're doing it by themselves, but it's also like they're leading the troops. So like, let's pioneer and start this, and then let's have other people follow.
Yeah. I'm trying to work with a university on building a yoga minor, and it's not because I want to teach it. It's because I want to create that in Indianapolis. Like I don't actually want to teach it, but I would teach it until I build it enough to give somebody else the opportunity to create stability, to your point. And that's my whole goal here, is like, I want to create enough stability that I had to do first. Like I used to teach 20 hours a week. I probably still do that, but in a different capacity. But I had to build the foundation to then be able to step out and give somebody else permission to fill that. And then it expands a little. So yeah, that feels deeply, deeply resonant.
And you just creating, I've gotten the privilege to take your yoga university course, you creating systems that will have a legacy, and you creating something where there's a void, there's something missing. And like and So that's one. And then there's two. And then like where it can go from there, and you laying the groundwork and creating that foundation, and then it will just grow from there. I mean, it's the sky's not the it's beyond that for you. So like keep dreaming big, and like you have all that Pisces to dream and envision, and even I think you said you don't really normally have vivid dreams, but like when you do, they're like crazy wild, you know, but it's like you create your own reality, and it is like highly evident in your chart, and that's yeah, like follow those dreams and like take us with you.
Thanks, buddy.
So welcome.
Oh my God.
Thank you so much for letting me read for you.
This is so cool. How does it feel when you do, like, how do you feel when you do a reading? What does that feel like for you? Oh my God, that's such a Pisces question.
How does this feel for you?
Well, I'm deeply curious. How does that feel for you?
It's the best part of my week. I shared with a friend earlier this week, I feel like I found what I'm truly passionate about, and it's all I think about. I think in terms of astrology. I just want to talk astrology to people. And when someone can speak that back, it's just, I feel like it's a totally different language, and it's almost like a superpower where I feel like I can see someone once I'm around them, or even just not even being around them, just looking at their chart. I feel like just being able to see them for who they are, and then let them, just helping them, remind them of how amazing they are, and use it as a tool for empowerment. There's no better feeling in the world for me. Just sharing what I love with others, and when it resonates with someone else, there's no better feeling. There's no better, I love it. That's all I want to do.
Well, you are exceptional at it. And the first thing you ever said to me about what astrology is how you led, which is astrology is a practice in empathy. And I feel that I am an empathic person, and someone that always is feeling about how other people are feeling. But ever since I've gotten to know you, I'm even more curious about that, and more conscious of, if someone's late, not jumping to like, you're doofus, but like, I wonder if that's just a pattern for you, because I'm late to fucking everything, because I'm an optimist, and I think I can do everything, and I will get it all done, and then I'll make it there, and I never do. But it's opened me up to just being like, I wonder what's going on with them, or is that a pattern for them? Is there a way we can gently manage that, or is that maybe something I need to accept about them? And so what you're doing, I think, really opens people up to seeing themselves, but also then seeing other people for who they are, what they are. And I love what you said a couple of times, this like, there's no good, bad binary, because about, like Pisces is I think you said like the most evolved water sign. That's not good or bad.
Yeah.
It's like, I think when we can take some of the charge off of people too, that like, certainly if it affects us in a negative way, there's something we're gonna have to grapple with there, but then maybe there's more to turn inward and look at, or maybe there are boundaries to be set or whatever, but that it's not necessarily good, bad. It's like what you do with the information and how well you understand yourself and how you are receiving them within the context of yourself, which I do feel deeply aware, and always have. So none of this was like, oh, that's not me, because it was like, it was an affirmation of like, yes, that is me. And I think the more people can do this work, they'll start to know, like you said about me, oh my God, I just had it. Like I'm in the constant battle of like, I want to like my family is a really big deal. And like, I would extend my family to the people, my neighbors and like my friends. I call those people my family. And so I'm very aware that there are times where I deeply want to be connected, but it's about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And then I want to sit on the couch and I need to like dream and like exist in my own space. And so hearing that affirms like, give yourself permission.
Yes.
And those who will accept me with that, like Purvi is the best example. Like she's just always she's given me such grace because she allows me to be that, like when I can tolerate being going out and doing social things, she's there, but she knows like I struggle with that too.
Yeah.
So it just affirms like seeking the people who will then empathize with how you are instead of trying to change
Absolutely.
you. So thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for just everything. Thank you for just being you, and you being you gives people permission and a reminder that we can be ourselves.
That's my whole mission. You get me. If you guys need self-transformation, just turn to Megan. She is doing the Astrology 101 course, but you can also work with her individually outside of Practice ND. You can work with her within the context of Practice ND. We have an astrology membership that integrates a one-on-one like this, and then 2 check-ins and and 2 months of yoga. So the idea is that you are taking the one-on-one, the information, and then embodying those lessons through your physical practice, and checking in with her through, 2 other times to be like, okay, how's this going? How's that showing up for you? That kind of thing. So I cannot recommend just being in her space in general. She is a magical being. And for the people who watched, thank you. This was, an hour and 15 minutes. So thank you. Anything else you want to say?
Just peace, love, and astrology.
Yes.
Love it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, buddy. Happy birthday to me. Really happy birthday to my mom. Speaking of my mom, I'm going to call her and tell her thanks for birthday me. I love all you people that watch. Thanks.